Today it's Chris Michael's birthday and we've taken him to see Ferris Bueller's Ferrari.
1961 Ferrari GT California.
Except no substitutes, right?
Except no substitute. Less than 100 were made.
But unfortunately, not this one.
Not
actually,
this one.
Maybe less than 100 of them. This is actually a replica. It was never actually a real car at all. It's the Moderna Spider, which has trunk lids from an MGB. It's got Type 3 Volkswagen rear lights and a Carman gear rear bumper. But this is really cool. Anybody who saw this film, how could you not love this car? Obviously it got slightly destroyed in the movie, but I'm pretty sure this was the moment that everybody looked at these and thought they were just a phenomenal thing. It really is truly amazing to see in real life. And it's just such a cool looking car. It's hard to believe it's just a budget replica really, but if you look at it closely, you can exactly see that it's not quite original, to say the least. It's got a V8 in it, a Ford 302, surprisingly. And this is an original movie car. We're here at the Henry Ford Museum today, but just thought you'd like to see it. See you soon. Well, one of the most famous cars you're ever going to see. This is the Tucker. Now the Tucker was Preston Tucker's brainchild. He was going to take on all of the big automotive companies at the time with this, which is actually quite a striking design. They're a very valuable car and very rare. Now they had a helicopter-derived flat 6 in the back, if I remember correct, and they were designed as being safe at the time, which is something that the other automotive companies at the time had actually no interest in doing whatsoever. See, there's the engine in the back. They were air-cooled. I'm pretty sure they were air-cooled. I'm not going to say 100% I know everything about Tuckers, but I know a bit. Now, the craziest design part of these is there was meant to be a safety feature underneath the dashboard. So if you had a problem and you were going to crash, the way to do it was to jump under the dash, and that was like a safety crush area. And that was what Tucker said was the part of the new safety features of the car. But also it was really tough, and when you rolled it over, it had a really strong substructure underneath the roof to stop it from crashing in on top of you, which is something pretty unusual. Now poor old Tucker, he was we never know if this was true or not, but he was accused of being in a Ponzi style scheme where he never actually built the cars. He was just raising all the money to keep for himself. And he was basically shut down by the government before they ever released hardly any Tuckers. I think 49 or something like that they ever produced. But everybody seems to think that the actual reality was Tucker might have actually been railroaded by the big Ford companies and, motor companies at the time. And then he was never allowed to release the car. The car never got built, and poor old Preston Tucker was bankrupted. Now, it's a really interesting story if you ever get to see it, the Tucker story, and it's probably worth a watch. I haven't seen it for many years, but to actually see it in person, it's a pretty amazing thing to do. Francis Ford Coppola owns one, I think, from the original movie. Okay, thanks for that, guys. It's one of my favourite cars of all time. It's the Edsel. I was going to say the Ford Edsel, but it isn't. Edsel was actually going to become its own brand. And the reason that this was becoming its own brand is Ford wanted to put a car somewhere between Lincoln, Mercury and Cadillac. So they wanted a young, aspirational car for a brand, actually, for the whole family. So this was sort of your first yuppie car, really. So they had a convertible, they had a wagon, they had a two-door, they had a four-door, loads of different various body styles. Just take you around this really cool looking heater here, actually. This is a radiator. Anyway, so this is the Edsel. Now the Edsel had some problems. Now, part of the main problem with the Edsel is that it had a very technical steering wheel. Now that doesn't sound like much really, but the steering wheel actually contains the tele-touch steering. And in tele-touch steering, they put the transmission controls in the middle of the steering wheel. Now that sounds like an easy thing to do, but what was a fix for something was essentially a lever that you push or pull. They put something in the middle, which was like a 1950s version of NASA to try and make the car move. And it had a massively complicated set of buttons to push in the middle, which is standard, but they were all connected to little receivers and pushers and little knitting needles that went into the transmission. So most of the time is when you put the car in gear, sadly it wouldn't move. And then instead of it just being a small linkage to replace, it was something you really needed to be quite technical upon to make it to go. So they really struggled, and most people converted them, in fact, to putting the lever through the floor or a lever through on the side of the column, which made them much, much more reliable, and they were actually not too bad a car. That was part of the problem. Now the other part of the problem, and this is something that I find very, very funny, is when they first launched the car, they used to take people out and take them out on big boozy nights out and lunches for the day and take all the main dealers to the factories so people could look at the cars and walk them around it. And they would do a big reveal at the end of your lunch. They'd pull the covers off, then they'd take you through the advertising material and they'd show you the car in the flesh. Now the legend of the story is, this I find very funny. It's a legend, so don't shoot me if it's not, but it is at least worth saying. As soon as they whip the covers off this car, everybody looks at it. The really sort of drunken room are all quiet when it pulls off, and the first words that anybody hear off anybody's mouth is, "Nice car, why'd you put a vagina in the middle of it?" Now, what he's actually talking about here is the horse collar grill. So this was meant to be the sort of collar that goes around a horse at the start of it, which is an unusual style, to say the least. But the fact that stigma never quite left the car's styling. And in fact, after the first couple of years, they pulled it off. Now, for me, I like it. It's kind of interesting. It harkens back to an old days. But if that story's true, it is definitely one of the funniest things I've ever in the world of car manufacturing, at least. So I hope you like the Edsel as much as me. And if you see one, go save it, because they're rare and they're cool, and you can just convert it to a pull lever transmission. It'll be much better. Hey man, so here we are with the original, the best, the greatest, Chris Michaels. No, Bigfoot. This is the original, the actual original podcast Bigfoot. I mean, whoa, check it out. American flag, this is like a American apple pie. This is when they stole other people's cars, it just blew their minds.
Oh, people lost their mind. I remember first time I saw this truck was on this TV show we had called That's Incredible. And it was this shot of like, it was some kind of a football game or something. The halftime show was like this truck driving over some cars, and people lost their minds so much they like rushed the field. Like, it was mind blowing.
People were pressed against the fence.
Oh yeah. And I have been driving big ass jacked up trucks ever since, and it probably started with this truck, the Smuggler Ram, the Silver that, all these big ass trucks, my Scout, everything else, all of that, all started with my inspiration seeing this truck. So this is like the genesis of a lot of things in my life. So I am very excited to see this truck in person.
In Detroit, the Motor City, flag waving background, GM buildings all around.
Yeah.
How does it get better? It's like proper Americana. All the way from New Zealand to the south to here.
Absolutely. This thing is just crazy. And then nowadays, I know people who drive trucks bigger than this on the road daily, and this evolved into all these other trucks around us here with 50-inch tires, jumping 4 stories in the air, doing wheelies and
Backflips,
all that.
all that
started
stuff.
with this thing, yeah. Really.
But, just in case this isn't enough for you, it's Bigfoot 2!
Yes.
Check it out. So they went from a lightly scaled up truck to a major scaled up truck. When you say major scaled up truck, I mean a major scaled up truck. It's so big you can get inside the wheels. It's insanity. What do you think of this?
These wheels came from the Laterno road train. It was a truck built back to, it was like a literal wheeled train meant to traverse the tundra and the Arctic, built the Arctic Circle, and they use these tires are what runs on this truck now.
Dale Attenborough, specialist of the Arctic Explorers, right there.
Absolutely.
How'd you get in the thing? You just roll up the tires, man?
Yeah, you just hang on, and if they pull forward, it just gives you a ride up.
Right there, like a big water wheel. Just imagine. This is the last thing of bug feels.
This is something else.
Just in case you're not like just enjoying all of the truck things. Look at that. It's the ginormous GM building. And there are some more of these things around here, but nothing's as exciting as the 2 Bigfoots, right? Mind blown. Thanks so much. Catch us all again later. Unless you want to look at the big